Welcome to my YouTube channel, Surowicz Watercolor. At any time during the video, you can click on the link in the lower right hand corner to subscribe to my channel. If you want to see more of my videos or learn more about my live online classes and workshops, you can click on the links at the end of the video. Hi everybody, this is Rick. I'm in my studio, and for today's YouTube video, I'm going to be doing this winter scene. And I've made a few adjustments, not a lot. Trying to come up with a composition that I prefer. So a few adjustments from the reference that I'm using. There's a hill here in the distance that kind of sticks up, and I've decided to kind of level that out, make that more of a horizon line that goes all the way across. I've added a few rocks. There's a few in the photograph if you look up in here, and if you look at that subject, I've included a couple of those kind of rock shapes in here, and I'm going to keep it fairly simple. It's not going to overwork this or try and get too crazy with little brush work detail. I'm going to use some texture and some a range of values to try and depict this scene. So we'll go ahead and get going here. And this is a screenshot that I'll be using with the palette, the reference, and my artwork here. So, well, I'm going to start by working in the distance here with some of this distant tree line. Then there's snow on the ground, and some of that reflects down on the water. So I'm going to turn my board upside down. This is an 8 by 10 inch painting, so not a large painting, just a fairly small painting. And I'm working on 140-pound cold press watercolor paper. So I think I'll just start with a wash brush here. And I'm going to keep it a very simple sky. I'm going to take a little royal blue, maybe a little raw sienna, and I just want kind of a grayish blue sky. So thin that down a little bit with some water, and then I'm going to take that down to I'll start at the edge of where that snow is. I'll just bring it across. I'm going to add a little bit of water to it. Maybe I'll take a little of this warmer mixture too. Just leading a bead of water. I'm working at about a 20-degree angle. And that ought to about do it. And let's see, go right across here. So now I've got that light wash down. It's a bit of make sure that goes across. So the paper is fairly wet right now, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this is a number 8 round brush, and I'm going to take a little of my royal blue, some of this quinacridone burnt orange, and I'll use a little bit of warm and a little bit of cool. So I'm going to start with this warmer mixture right off the edge of the snow, and I'm going to drop some of this color in there. I'm going to increase the angle just a little bit. A little brighter color, so I'm going to get some of that burnt orange. I'm going to take a little cooler mixture. It has a little bit more blue in it. And I need to do this in a timely manner to avoid getting backwash or blossoms. I'll take a little raw umber, some of that blue. Just going to add a few touches of that. Go a little higher with the trees here. That's probably good enough for what I want to do there. So I'm going to give this a dry with my hair dryer. So I've dried that. So right along the water's edge where the snow comes down, there's some grass and some straw or something growing there. And I'm going to go ahead and paint an indication of that in. We'll use a little bit of this raw sienna, maybe a touch of quinacridone gold. And I'm going to take some clear water. I'm going to go right along the edge of where that snow would come down and meet the water. And keep in mind, I'm upside down here, so. And so right along the water's edge, we've got some of that kind of grassy shapes in there, just touches of color. And I'm going to dry that, then I'm going to flip my painting back around. So I'm going to flip this. So now, I have an indication of some trees here. The ground cover, it's covered with snow, and just an indication of some grassy shapes. And now I'm going to add just a little texture, a little edge to some of the trees there. I'll probably take my 1/2 inch flat brush, and I'm going to take some of this color I have on here, take a little of this burnt orange, add a little bit more. I'm going to take some moisture off my brush, and I'm just going to kind of drag that a little bit, get some of that orange. I really don't need or want a lot of texture. I'll lose all the soft edge kind of tree line that I have. So, but I want a little bit. I'm just dragging the side of my brush. I paint as much with the side or edge or tip of my brush as I do with the end of it. So very just subtle texture on top of that soft wash. And now I'm going to take a liner brush with some of these colors. And I'm going to put in some trees and tree trunks and branches, just very light value. I'm not trying to go real dark with these. Maybe just a little darker on a few of them. Go across. Now, if I make a mark that's a little too heavy or I'm not happy with it, I just blot it with a tissue normally. You notice I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to paint a bunch of individual trees and detail them out with branches and dried leaves or anything. This is just distance. I'm just giving a suggestion of this wooded area back there. So now I have that. I'm going to go to my wash brush again, and I'm going to take kind of the same kind of colors that I used up here. I'm going to get a little lighter and then add a little more color, a little more value, actually, kind of a gray still as I get closer to here. But then I'll put some washes in there. To show the reflections. A little water. Now I'm going to start getting a little darker. I'm going to actually start down here. That's got a warmer tone to it. I'm going to bring that up into this lighter. I want to pick up any excess that builds up on the edge of the dry paper, because eventually it will start to backwash up. So I might actually go a little stronger with a warm tone here. Okay, so now I want to take and suggest some of those reflections. So we have the snow kind of reflecting there. And I'm going to glaze over that a little bit once this is dry. But right now I want to take some of these orange tones to pick that up. And I'm going to take some of the cooler mixture with royal blue and some raw umber and a little bit of this raw sienna in there. Just a little bit more of that. Got the excess. So I'm going to dry that and do a little bit more to show some of these trunks reflecting and a little bit of a glaze on that snow that's reflecting. So that's dry. Could have gone a little darker in here, but I'm going to leave it like it is. And I'm going to take just a little bit of a light value and get what right at the base of the shoreline where it hits the snow. Here you start to get the reflection, and but I want to picks up some of the ground still in that. So just a few touches of color over that. And I'm not going to get too fussy with that. So now, one of the things I'm going to do, this is dry, is I've put in some rock shapes here. There's going to be kind of snow on top of them. I'm going to go ahead and paint those in with some of what I have on my palette. So if I had a few rocks there with some a little snow on it, and we'll leave it at that. Okay, now I want to dry what I've just put down, and then I'm going to come in and actually before I do, I want to get let's put a little bit of a light valued glaze over that. And now let me dry this, and I'm going to come in, I'm going to start to put in this tree, put a little bit of texture around here with some of these leaf shapes. And I'll start to put in the branches and the kind of the greenery, the foliage part of it, the pine needle. So that's dry. And now I'm going to come in and start with the tree. So I'm going to approach this in a couple stages. I'm going to put a kind of a light wash over here, some kind of neutral, warm and cool neutral colors on this tree. I'm going to, at the same time, I'm going to bring in kind of some rough texture to suggest these leaves and ground cover, and just a little broken edge texture here to kind of show the partially covered ground with the snow. And then we'll dry that. Then I'm going to come back with some of this. I'm actually going to put the kind of the green needles, the foliage on here, and I'll come back with some darker values and paint in some branches and some negative painting on the tree. So I'm going to go ahead and start with, let's see, I'm going to use my 1/2-inch brush. I'll use some of what I have on my palette. There's some raw sienna, some royal blue, and probably a little burnt orange in there. And actually I want to go a little darker. We'll go with something like this. So I'm going to bring that down. This is going to be very dark. And I want to get a little more. I'll take some raw sienna in that. Perhaps leave a few spots to make it feel like there's some snow laying on there. I'm not going to force that, but might leave a little of that texture on there. We'll see. So now I start to come into this ground cover, which has snow, some dried leaves. So I'm going to use a tissue here, control the moisture in my brush. I'm going to drag that a little bit. I start to get a little of this, more of the ground showing through. Take that off a little. And get some leaves that are kind of hanging off the stems. I'm gonna wait till I dry this and I'll paint a little bit more of that in. So I want to get a little darker. here, I'm just taking the corner of my brush. And I'm going to splatter a little bit in there while this is still wet. I'm going to take my liner brush. It's a little strong. Go a little lighter with the ones from here. I'm going to take some of this brighter burnt orange. Get that. Paint a few of these leaves hanging off of these branches, or these little twigs. Could do more, we'll see. I'll come back to that. So now what I want to do is I'm going to dry this, and I'm going to come in with some darker values. So this is dry, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a little bit of what I have on my palette off. There's a lot of water in that. Let's start from scratch. So I'm going to take my 1/2-inch flat brush again. And I'm going to take some sap green. I'm going to take some, let's see, I'm going to take a little royal blue. I'm going to take some burnt orange. More of the royal blue. And I'm going to add some, this is Pyro Red, just after a kind of a dark earthy green. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to put in, actually going to take some raw sienna too. So I'm going to drag my brush. I'm going to take some of that moisture off my brush. I'm going to drag this and try and create that, the pattern of these that's created by all this foliage. So you notice that I'm painting the leaves, or the needles, the greenery on this before I bring in the branches. And because I don't just want to have branches that look like they're just put there and things hung on them. I want them to be integrated, and it's a good way not to paint so that it looks forced, and just like it's, like I said, like it's just hanging off these branches, or branches just laying over the top of greenery. I want it to be where you see the branches, but you also, they get lost And so it's not just a line that you draw and then stick things on. You'll see part of it, it disappears. You'll see part of it, it disappears. And I found that painting this, the foliage on trees, depending on what I'm painting, first, can help get me the result I'm after. Actually, I'm going to go to a 1-inch brush. Go larger. Don't be afraid to work with big brushes. You know, when you do a painting and you just use a little teeny tiny brush, you can tell you used a little teeny tiny brush, and you can see how you painted it. I need a little more color here. Don't quite have enough, so some burnt orange in that. A little pyro red. A little more of the blue. So I'm getting my dark value really from my royal blue. And let's go ahead and now drag this. See, it's a bigger brush, and really my 1/2-inch one wasn't quite large enough for what I wanted to do here. I'm going to come over here. I'll leave, you know, little touches of daylight peeking through. All right. So now I've got, you know, a lot of that kind of texture. So I'm going to dry that again. So that's dry. And I'm going to get rid of this green for a moment. And now I'm going to take, this is a quill brush that I use. So I'm going to take some of this royal blue, some of this burnt orange, a little bit more of that. Keep this kind of leaning towards warm over here. It's cooler, so it's a very dark mixture. I mean, I'll add a little raw umber to that, and a little alizarin. Okay, so now, actually, I'll take a little alizarin over here. So now I'm going to take this dark value, I'm going to start to work kind of a negative space around this, what I just painted in, and start to describe a little bit more of the tree trunk, the branches. And I drag this, use the side. I want to have a strong leading edge on this. So this is a very dark color. It's almost a neutral, not quite. I don't really like to work with black. I like to mix mine using more complements. I'm going to take some of this dark tone and I'm going to use a number 6 rigger brush. I'm going to start to give an indication of some of these branches coming in. And I lift my brush and cause interruptions in the branch. I'm going to go back to my quill brush and continue this darker value. And actually, I'm going to switch over to my 1/2 inch flat brush again. I'm going to bring this wash down, and I think I'm going to go ahead and paint over that where I was thinking about leaving a little snow. Add some warmer burnt orange into that. And I'm going to take some sap green, add it to this, and now start to get some darker greens than what I had originally. Okay, I'm going to dry this, and I'm going to do a little bit more kind of negative painting up in here. Okay, that's pretty dry. So I'm going to take again my royal blue, some burnt orange, a little bit more burnt orange in that. So it's pretty dark. So a little darker value. So now I'm going to take a little stronger burnt orange mixture, a little darker value, and distribute some of that value down here. Create a balance. I don't want all this dark just up here. I want to isolate it. So just a few touches. I don't have to do a lot. And might just do a little bit of one, a little darker. And let's see, now we'll go a little darker on a few of these branches. I'm going to take my liner brush, and I'm going to do a few smaller little branches. And I'm going to bring in this little branch up here. A few more kind of coming down. I like to create overlap and layers when I can. I might bring this dark value down here just a little bit more. I'll break that up a bit more. And then I think I want to get just a few more dark green shapes on here. Okay, so now I'm going to get rid of some of this green. I'm going to put a few darker values on these rocks, maybe some ground cover, maybe a little splatter. Just get that value in there. I don't want to go with that dark value in the distance. I want to keep that dark value dominance in the foreground, because if I just put that everywhere, then you lose your sense of depth in it. You lose the depth in the painting. So I'm going to put a few touches of some dark value on these rocks. Still using the royal blue and the burnt orange. I've used that quite a bit for the darker values that I have. So I just want to show the rocks, and I'm going to take a number 6 round brush, and actually I want to get a little darker with that. Just want to splatter a little bit of a darker value in here to give it a little more texture. I think I'll take some of this raw sienna. I'm going to take some of the moisture off my brush and just drag that a little bit. A little more color, not a lot. Okay, so I think the one thing I am going to do, though, just for balance, is take just a touch of this dark. Just a little bit going across the way. Let me dry this. Okay, if you wanted to, I'm not going to do it on this, but if you wanted to, maybe I'll do a couple. You could take a damp brush, nylon brush with an edge on it, a flat brush or an angled brush, and you could do some lifting if you wanted to get some few highlights in there, or some overlapped light shapes. This might be a better area to do this. So I agitate that with that brush, and then I can lift out, and I could put in some, you know, some overlapping shapes that are lighter. And go over some of these dark areas. If I wanted a branch, let's say, that swung in there. And I'm not real fond of that ending, so I'm going to cover that. But you could do some lifting. You could get some light shapes going over top of some of these. So again, if I were to lift here, just a very light mark. And that's about all I'm going to do on this one. So a little 8x10 painting, a little winter scene. You know, started out with wash and some soft edges, turned it upside down, then brought it back around, and then just started to work in with these darker values and build layers. So I hope you enjoyed that. Thanks for watching.